Welcome to Doves Talk Live, brought to you by FitAid. I know, I've got somebody that you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? This is actually like the best thing that's happened to me
Women's
today.
Empowerment Month.
It's Women's Empowerment Month, and we're showing this off to you. Dalton Johnson will be joining us in a little bit, live from Crypto.com Arena, but I was like, Kerith, why don't you join me? Let's kick off this month.
Yeah, we'll give Dalton a little bit of time to get situated. We got it.
We got it down. Exactly. Of course, you also just talked a little bit about this, but now I get your perspective from an analyst.
Thank you.
Right? And I'm very excited about that.
Thank you.
Obviously, you guys know Kerith knows her stuff, so I'm very excited to dive in with this. But we just talked about it. Golden State Warriors lost to the Los Angeles Lakers, 113-105, and they did this whole thing they've been doing. This start down, get down early, got down to 20 points, closed that deficit to get down within one at the half, and then couldn't do enough in the second half. But as you guys mentioned, Warriors Live, there was a lot of good things out of that game.
Yeah.
What did you make of the game?
Well, Steph Curry's return, first of all. That's the most important thing. You got to fold him back in. He showed up and became the leading scorer for the Warriors. Somehow. He always has that type of magic. He always brings that heat. The minutes restriction he was supposed to be on basically evaporated. 32 points for Steph. You know what? But the trouble spot, though, truly, it's a lot easier for the Warriors to make those huge comebacks that we saw, the double-digit comebacks at home. When you're playing in LA and you have a hostile crowd, it's tougher. It simply is tougher. That's not, I don't know. There's an emotional component to that makes it tough.
And there's a lot, people say this, they used to say this about Oracle Arena, and they say this now about Chase Center. The crowd is almost a sixth man out there.
There you go.
It really does energize the players, I think, and there's something about being able to turn around and have a lot of fun in front of your crowd and being able to use that as a resurgence, almost like a source of power. But they couldn't quite get that, obviously, at Crypto.com Arena, even though they were having a little bit of fun. I'm very curious to see what Steph Curry had to say about his return. He's at the podium now. Let's hear what he had to say.
I felt great. I mean, usually the approach, knowing how I work and my rehab return to play and all that is pretty generous in terms of the restriction or the window I want to hit with minutes and keeping a big picture perspective. But to play 32, pretty intense down the stretch. I felt like I got stronger as the game goes on. That's always a testament to our performance staff, my guys I work with, and then obviously my discipline, just try to approach it the right way that I can safely, play that much and that hard and still feel good. Obviously not the outcome we wanted. I think Coach talked about it a little bit after the game in terms of the way that our roster is constructed, the amount of guys that you can throw in there on a night-to-night basis, the way our guys have been playing over the last 5 games and the stretch that we had at home. It's a tough transition for everybody. With me and Andre coming back and guys just trying to find their rhythm or keep their rhythm, keep their confidence and all that. That's our challenge as a team. We have to maintain trust in each other as we do that because we're all, aiming for the same goal to win the highest level, and understand that everybody has to be a part of that. And it's not just about me coming back. It's not just about what Andre can bring. We're trying to lift everybody up together because we need everybody to win. This is a tough night on that front, but got to stay optimistic about where we're headed. We played solid for stretches of the game that gave us a chance to win. You said what? Our team? Yeah.
Feel like you were stepping into that and feel good that chance wrapping up with playoff basketball.
Yeah, especially on the road. I felt it and felt great. I missed it a lot. Brings the best out of you. And like I said, as the game gets deeper into it, you try to meet that intensity and that energy and that level, mentally and physically. And it felt great to get thrown back in there, right away. So it was a little sluggish in terms of like the sharpness of your skill set early, and then you start to feel the speed of the game. And like I said, if I get better as the game goes on, that's always a great sign for me individually, and then our team. Even though we lost, there were some bright spots for sure. So felt great.
Since we've been out and playing tonight, just where have you seen the team grow, and where did you feel that tonight compared to last night?
Just our overall defensive intensity, and then our mindfulness on the offensive end of how we're trying to get shots. I know we shoot a lot of threes, but I think tonight for the most part, we have really, really good ones. Even when it gets down, the last 6 minutes of the game, I don't mind any of those shots. I think sometimes we talk about like hero ball or, unnecessary threes, but all of them were really good looks. Didn't make them, and then made some, didn't make the last two. And then AD, played amazing tonight, which was tough to keep going back and forth. But defensively, and our road splits have been trash all year in all categories. So just trying to correct that as much as possible is our challenge. First quarter, we were down 20, and to fight our way back shows you how much it matters to us to try to get over the hump on the road. We just got to have a better start.
It's the same thing last year, like you're hurt at toward the end of the year, and you get back in time to play us. And is there enough time for the team to gel around you? Does it feel like any similarities from last year in that sense?
Yes and no. Yes, in terms of the time frame we have to put it all together. The biggest difference is we didn't start out 18-2, so we have to. We're still in fifth, even though we lost. I have an outside shot of trying to get home court advantage, but the biggest goal. It's weird to say it as like we're trying to win championships, but we're also trying to stay out the play-in too. So both can be true just based on what our challenge has been this year. And like I said, in terms of the rotations and the amount of guys that have played well this year that deserve opportunity, it's a fine balance between staying ready, knowing when your minutes are going to be, knowing who you're going to be out there with, and finding the right combinations to finish the season strong so that whoever we, potentially play in the playoffs, we know what our identity is. And that's the challenge over the last 17 games, whatever it is.
Steph, given that, how would you compare how you managed the group for this regular season's ups and downs versus last regular season's ups and downs?
It's the same way we approach everything, with the right intentions, communicate, hold each other accountable. Like I said, it's just different challenges because we've been, I was out for 4 weeks before, and 4 weeks this last time. Andre is she's been chomping at the bit to try to get out there and play. The shorthanded guys, the way we've been shorthanded for a long time, these guys have been stepping up and playing at an extremely high level to give us even, a little bit of life to be where we are in the standings and all that. So there's just a lot that we're trying to deal with, and still, again, stay optimistic about where we're headed, because until we get beat, like we still feel like we're, tough matchup for anybody, and that's the confidence we have to have down the stretch and headed to the postseason.
In the fourth quarter, there was a situation where Austin Reeves blocked your layup, and then you hit a 3 right away response. Could you just talk about that play and what was going through your mind?
Just playing basketball. You get your shot blocked every once in a while, and try to find ways to impact the game and not let whatever happened before impact what's going to happen next. Next play mentality.
This is kind of you had a pretty bad injury. How sure you were to get back?
Yeah, it was just more the mental aspect of it, of not really knowing what the next day was going to feel like and staying patient through that. Rick Celebrini helped me a lot in that respect to understand what I was dealing with, the patience of how to stay in shape, but also not put the ligament in jeopardy of having any setbacks or anything like that. And just trusting him and his staff to know what the right cadence was to get back out there on the floor, and then this last week give myself enough freedom to go hard enough where I get back in shape as fast as possible and get my skill set as sharp as possible. So I've had some interesting ones this year, but thankfully it's been a defined window of time where I'll be out and full steam ahead to know when I am clear to play that I'm healthy. Oh, great. Missed the first 2 wide open ones. And then, saw one go in, felt good. Had some desperation ones down the stretch, but I felt great. Felt like I was in rhythm for the most part, seeing the floor really well. Like I said, I missed it a lot and hopefully continue to get better as we go forward from here.
Zena, if you don't mind, one of the things I noticed right away in that sound was Steph Curry talking about how he got better as the game went on.
Yes.
The scoring explosion happened in the fourth quarter. We wouldn't be talking about that if Steph Curry wasn't the best conditioned athlete in the NBA. He turns 35 on March 14th. I feel like since he's turned 30, we've been talking about Steph in his prime.
For sure.
But there you go. He's extending it big time. It was nice to see him come back to a game like this, being the leading scorer for his team as they tried so hard to win this game.
1,000%. And we're going to talk about someone else on his team
Okay.
beating Father Time when we come back on Dubs Talk Live, brought to you by Fit 8.
Dubs Talk Live is presented by Fit Aid, the #1 post-workout recovery drink in America. Try now and visit drinkfitaid.com.
Okay, that was weird.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Can you hear her okay? Okay.
I feel like I'm not hearing Chris talk back to me at all. Hello?
She's not hearing you.
Oh, now I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, now she's hearing you.
Hey, Dalton, I'm so sorry. No, I can't hear you.
Cannot hear Dalton. Ugh.
Oh.
You can see his poor mouth moving.
Yeah.
But
I can feel his frustration.
no, Dalton, it's okay.
Yeah, it is not muted on Zena.
Oh, wait.
It says that it's
We're
it
hearing
says it's
him in and
muted
out.
on Zena's side, but not on my side.
I hear you now,
It's also
Dalton.
obviously loud in here, and I'm in a media room, which is
Yeah, no, I
freaking
can hear
asshole.
you now.
I can hear Zena. Yeah.
Yep, I can hear you. Are we, I just want you guys to know, YouTube's watching all of this, by the way.
That's true.
Hey,
I
guys.
probably should
We're
have
just
reminded
dealing
that.
with some
Sorry about that.
technical difficulties, that's all.
Excusing my frustrations.
Nope, totally understood. What would you like me to do, Chris? Sure. I'm just gonna scoot for the camera.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right, YouTube. It's all good. Welcome back to Dubs Talk Live. We had some technical difficulties, but the star of the show, Dalton Johnson, has found his way back to Dubs Talk Live. I'm sorry that Crypto.com Arena's Wi-Fi is apparently not as great as Chase Center, but you're with us now. Dalton, I know we didn't have an opportunity to talk about the game just yet with you, but you were there and you got to see that in person. But one of the things you got to see in person was Andre Iguodala come back, 4th game of the season. Didn't score, but you definitely saw his offensive and defensive value on both ends of the floor. What'd you make of his performance and coming back?
His impact is never going to be about scoring, obviously, right? It's the fact that he came in that second quarter, and that's when the Warriors started to finally figure out their flow on offense, right?
Yeah.
And so that was not surprising by any means. After another slow start by the Warriors, he comes in, things start to gel a little bit better. I believe he ended up, a plus 13, and it was also the fact that Steve Kerr turned to him with a minute 45 left in the game in that crunch time. So it's for the defense, it's for how smart he is, all of that. So I thought he looked really good physically. He looked strong. He looked fast. He looked like Andre Iguodala. So again, we never need to
39 years
stare at the
old.
box score when it comes to exactly right. I mean, he's in incredible condition, just like the way we talk about how well conditioned Steph Curry is. That's how Andre Iguodala is too. Just obviously in his 19th and final season in the NBA.
Yeah.
So everything that he brings to the court is what we saw today. It's gonna be interesting to see how his body reacts and keeps playing these games going forward, whether it's in OKC, whether it's in Memphis. So those would be big for Andre Iguodala, as a big test for him as well.
Sure.
But again, it's the fact that Steve Kerr, how much he trusts him, even being away from the court for nearly 2 months, that he goes, hey, we need everything that you bring to the court right now with a minute 45 left. That really stood out to me.
For sure. And you saw that Andre Iguodala was talking to players on the bench, in the court, just being a vocal leader all the way through. Guys, you guys are actually seeing live what media goes through, right? Dalton is in the media workroom at crypto.com arena right now, so you're probably hearing some extra voices there. But yes, on Andre Iguodala just coming back and going right into what he needs to be, which is another leader on the floor, another veteran on the floor. Now, something we haven't been giving a lot of attention to in the midst of Steph Curry not being on the floor is another veteran who's been doing the work to make sure that this team can continue to push forward, get better, and turn that corner. No, I'm actually not talking about Klay Thompson. I'm talking about Draymond Green. And obviously, he hasn't been the biggest scorer in the midst of these last few games with Klay Thompson taking over as he has. But he has been a formidable player for this team. And not only playing through injury, but also just handling some really, really tough defensive assignments. Dalton, I'd love to hear, thinking about what Draymond brings to this team, where do you think his value showed up most tonight?
His toughness, right? It's the fact that when he had to go out of the game, when he went and got x-rays, which were negative, of course, you're going to have a little bit of a scare. You're going to have to hold your breath a little bit. I'm sure Warriors fans are really, we get Steph back and then this happens to Draymond. It was a little bit of deja vu from last season when that happened as well, with Klay coming back and then one guy goes down. Steph comes back, another guy goes down. Draymond, all these things, right? So
it's a lot.
Had to be a little bit of a worry, but again, he toughed through it, came back with his hand added up, taped up, a different kind of tape in that second half, where it was more kind of that. It was more that athletic tape in the first half, and then it was almost more kind of not a pre-wrap, but the kind of tape that can make you expand a little bit better in the second half.
Yeah.
That's what that black tape was.
Yep.
So it was padded. He said that kind of a lingering issue that happened a few games ago. And just, he's like, it happens. It's March. It's time to turn it up, and he's going to play through it. He had it iced after the game. But that's who he is and where they're at right now, is that he knows that how important these games are right now.
Right.
And if he can be on the court, he's going to be on the court.
And it's just like, Steph Curry, obviously we just heard his audio. He just mentioned about, you can tell how much this matters to us, how important this is. And he was talking about the 20-point deficit, but Kerith made a good point as he was saying that. Draymond fighting through injury, right? It's not just his thumb, it's also his knee. He's been dealing with a lot of different things. And despite all of that, still being a player that this team can count on to direct them in the right way. So shout out to Draymond, and also just really, really big shout out to all the veterans just going through what they've been going through, like you mentioned, all of those injuries, and being able to come back and fight through those to be able to make this fight to the playoffs. I love what Steph said. We're trying to win a championship, but we're also just trying to stay out of the play-in. And sometimes it really is that simple, right?
Yeah, it's a perspective with everything right now. Is the fact that, of course, you go, okay, he's back. They lose the game. You would think that the panic meter gets turned on a little bit. I'm not sensing that by any means. Obviously, you want to continue to get, number one, a win on the road, which has been very hard this season, but continue that win streak. If it could have pushed it to 6, would have been huge. And now I think that these next 2 games are even bigger, of course. But again, everything's kind of perspective with how crazy the standings have been this season, to try to get Steph in the flow of things. The fact that he played over 30 minutes, the fact that Andre Iguodala played 14 minutes. These are all little wins that you can take from a game like this and go, okay, we can build off of this.
Yep.
It's one game. We're not all of a sudden back to the 11th seed. So that has to be their mindset right now, is the fact that they got that perfect 5-0 homestand to get to the number 5 seed is huge, because then you can get your guys back and now try to get that comfortability again and gain momentum with a way more full squad than they had in just a few weeks ago, the last few months, everything, of course, right? So it's big. It's finding the little wins after a tough performance like tonight. For
sure. And I'm happy you mentioned that. Despite the loss, the Warriors are still in the 5th seed. When we come back, we're going to try and figure out why that is. How do the standings work? When we come back on Dubs Talk Live, brought to you by Fit Aid.
Dubs Talk Live is presented by Fit Aid, the #1 post-workout recovery drink in America. Try now and visit drinkfitaid.com.
This is really cool.
We should do a women's empowerment.
We should.
I think that would be a lot of fun these days.
All right, guys.
Okay. Chris, do you feel comfortable if I go? Okay, you're welcome. Do you feel comfortable?
I'm great.
Okay, yeah, all right.
I'm going to talk to YouTube alongside Dalton now.
All right, that sounds
YouTube, I appreciate you guys, man. You guys are hanging in there with us right now as we figure this out. And a lot of great comments in the chat. Just talking about, we haven't talked about Dante, but Dante did a really great job today. Again, not only offensively, just making the right passes and obviously scoring the ball as well, but defensively, he was so aggressive. And I know he got a few foul calls from trying to defensively rebound more aggressively, but I don't mind that. Like, did you, Dalton?
No, not at all. I mean, you see the way that he kind of almost has a sneak attack approach when he comes to rebounding,
Very
right?
much so.
He's so smart at reading the angles, all of that. So I thought that he had a game that was even better than the box score might show as well when it comes to plus minus, things like that, everything. So he impacted the game strong. He did what he does as far as a very, very good rebounding guard.
Yep.
When you look at the box score with him, you're going to see a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And that was another Dante DiVincenzo game where I was a little bit surprised that he was in the starting lineup, but I just think that Steve Kerr trusts him that much. And when you need to get a road win, as much as they did today, I think, again, the way that he trusts him with the value that he brings on both sides of the ball, it kind of shined again today, despite the loss.
I mean, 6 assists and 7 rebounds out of a guard, and then 10 plus points.
Exactly.
It's awesome. It's awesome. All right, back to Dub Talk. Okay, welcome back. So the Warriors did lose to the Lakers today. However, that didn't change their standings position. They're still in the 5th. Dalton, I may need your help here. I'm trying to figure this out. How is it that they didn't go down? It's obviously based on what other teams did too, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, obviously it was an early game today, and so we're going to see how some other teams do as well. There was that big game today with the Suns and the Mavs. So you look at that kind of that 4, 5, 6, 7 range right now, and it's crazy. We know that there's about 2 teams who have really separated themselves, but really the Nuggets who have really separated themselves. Obviously, the Memphis Grizzlies are there too, but look at the standings right there. Look how bunched everything is. And when you look at the Warriors' schedule going forward, there's only 2 games left against Eastern Conference teams. That's the Bucks and the 76ers, 2 teams that, of course, see themselves as contenders as well. But the rest of the way, it's more and more of this crazy Western Conference. So it shows right there with the standings that, yes, teams like the Suns, the Kings are within reach, but that's why these next few games on the road are going to be very key to kind of either stay where they are or have a chance of climbing up as well, as long as they can't fall out of that, fall out of the top 6 and into the play-in. As we've said, that is the goal.
Okay. I was just trying to understand, especially looking at how close these are. Both the East and the West have been absolutely crazy. And Warriors Live, Kerith and crew talked about one game can completely derail your playoff hopes, and it's absolutely crazy. One last thing I want to talk about before we leave, Anthony Lamb is at 50 games. What's the next move on that?
I would expect him to be converted into that official roster spot. You know, you look at kind of when Lesser Quinones is 10-day is gonna run up. That kind of coincides with when Anthony can kind of maybe get his roster spot converted. So, you know, it's going to be a very interesting situation. Steve Kerr definitely talked about that he really would like to have Anthony Lamb on the roster. Talk about how he kind of connects the lineups, you know, as this guy who can be a 3, a 4, even a small ball 5 at times, you know. So when his shot's not falling, everything else is what really becomes more and more important for him. You know, he did have, I believe, 6 rebounds tonight.
Yep.
The shot wasn't always there. I believe he was 2 for 5 from the field, and those were all 3-pointers. So they need him to hit those kind of shots, be a kind of 3-and-D guy for them. But again, it's the fact that you look at the roster right now, and they need that kind of size, that kind of strength, the kind of versatility that he can bring as a forward, and even in times be a small ball 5 as well.
Right. I mean, this is Dubs Talk Live, so we're talking as if we're amongst the fans, and of course, talking to our YouTube family. There's a lot of comments about, you know, with Lamb and trying to figure out if he's the right person to fit this new spot. But thinking about, for example, the defensive assignment that he had tonight, and like you mentioned, size being really, really important. He's what's available in terms of size for the Warriors right now. And from what I gather, you want someone that's able to know your scheme and know how to play along the players that are already on the court. And that also feeds into the value of Lamb.
Yeah, that's why I just don't see the fact that there would be anyone else that would come in at this point in the season and feel like they could leapfrog, whether it's Anthony Lamb or Ty Jerome, right? So we know how important the system is with Steve Kerr, and he's clearly shown trust in Anthony Lamb. Look at how many minutes he played tonight off the bench, and it's not like Steve Kerr didn't know where Anthony Lamb ranked with it when it comes to his games left. He knew that this was his last game. But he went out there, he played, I believe, 27 minutes. You know, so he was a huge part of the rotation, and it very much seems like he's going to be going forward as well. So I would say in the near future that roster spot is going to be converted to a full roster spot for Anthony Lamb. That it seems kind of like the writing is on the wall right now, especially with the way that Steve Kerr talked about his impact after the game.
For sure. It seems like this is something that the Warriors have, as much as they could, kicked down the road until now, the final decision time, knowing that Lesser Quinones signing a 10-day was helpful in gaining a little bit more time with these two-way players, but now is time for the Warriors to make a decision. So we'll see what the Warriors do next with that spot, but also how they continue on this road trip that they've got going up. So make sure to tune in on our next Dubs Talk Live. We appreciate you tuning in today. Again, Warriors fall to the Lakers 113-105, but we appreciate you guys joining us today. Have a great Sunday. Alrighty, on YouTube. Hello, my friends. Alrighty, so one thing I will say, and I don't remember who said this, on some podcast, something, but Austin Reeves making the case for 3 to 4 year college basketball players. And people just being able to know the game, know where to be, obviously being skilled, but really just being basketball smart, that in a way that you don't quite get out of these one and done players. Now, obviously there are trade-offs. We know that that's a nuanced conversation, but I've even seeing Austin Reeves play today, I can understand why a coach like Kerr, who does value that intelligence on the court, puts a lot of trust in a Jerome and an Anthony Lamb, both of which played multiple years in college.
I was going to say the same thing. Look at the way that Steve Kerr's talked about Anthony Lamb, Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome was a winner, obviously, in college, played multiple seasons in college. You know, he's kind of bounced around the league a little bit, so he had to kind of fight and claw. You think about the past bench players that the Warriors have had. These are guys who have played multiple years in college. Got a lot of guys who went through the G League. I got a lot of guys who were undrafted. You know, so they know that those kind of players know that you have to be able to perfect a role to get on the court. That you don't need to go, okay, I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Hey, I need to do 1 or 2 things really well, and then that's going to make the rest of the teammates better. You know, so that the more that Steve Kerr talks about that, it's just interesting, the dynamics when it comes to the draft, when it comes to front office, first coaching, all of that, right? So again, whether he talks about a Ty Jerome, an Anthony Lamb, or a Dante DiVincenzo, these are guys who have been here before, who, had to put in the work in college. A lot of guys who had won at that level as well. So it's just an interesting dynamic to try to pick apart when you hear the way that he talks about these certain players.
For sure. It's so fascinating. I think out of all the NBA teams across the country, the Warriors are the only ones that have this as much of a topic. No one else is talking about two-way players on NBA rosters as much as the Warriors. So it's fascinating, particularly, obviously working in the G League as well, thinking about how little they have made their way down to Santa Cruz and how much this continues to be a spotlight within any conversation about the Warriors, their dynamics, and who they're going to play moving forward. But the time has come to close that conversation and get now to these last few games. Only 18 remaining. Is that right?
I believe 17 now.
17 now. Yeah. So
yes,
I mean,
17 now. But again, that's why it's good where they are in the standings. But obviously, they know that every game matters, and you try to find these little wins from a loss like today. The fact that you do have Steph back, the fact that you do have Andre Iguodala back, that you expect to have Andrew Wiggins and Gary Payton second back as well. So obviously you don't want to dig another hole like they did in the first quarter and have another road loss, but you're trying to find any kind of positivity right now after a game like that, and they're lucky that they can find that, and that's why that 5-0 homestand was so key and so important. Right.
Well, talking about finding positivity, Steph Curry is back, and today's game was amazing. And for him, as he mentioned his presser, whenever I get better as the game goes on, that's better for the team as well. And I thought that was such a key point for him, for the team to see and have faith in him, right? Because you always get scared when your leader goes out. How are they going to come back? Are they still going to have that step? Are they still going to be conditioned enough? Are they still going to have the things that they do really well? And one thing that Steph Curry has proven over his illustrious career is his ability to get down and come back, maybe at the same level, but usually better than where he was. And I think that's a huge vote of confidence from his teammates, I'm sure, to have that back.
Yeah, he scored 24 points the last time he came back from an injury. We saw what he did tonight, the fact that he had 19 points in the fourth quarter, and also the fact that after Austin Reeves swatted that layup, you saw Steph Curry kind of turn up the volume and go, okay, my time. You saw him kind of have fun with the crowd there. Right after that, he made 4 straight shots, including 2 3-pointers, 12 points. So you saw the competitive fire and also just how well-conditioned he is down the stretch. 19 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, you can't say much more about that. The fact is, you're going to have maybe this kind of slow start that he had tonight. That's not very surprising. But when he can finish the way that he did, that says it all to us as far as, Steph's back and there's not too much to worry about.
For sure.
With him.
I'm very excited. Even though, loss, not great, especially going 1-3 against the Lakers in the regular season, not great. But still remnants of Warriors basketball specifically. Ball movement, off-ball movement, great screens, great dives, being able to take advantage of that dunker spot, engaging Anthony Davis and being able to take advantage of that dunker spot. Draymond Green was the one in that position today, and Kevon Looney as well. I think Kevon had like a 3-bucket run unanswered as well. So I just love that in the spite of all of this craziness that's around the Warriors, whether it's injuries, players missing time, this two-way conversation, all of this, we're still seeing the core of the Warriors. And that's the best thing, I think, as a fan, as an observer of the team. Anyone that's involved is like, okay, we got it. It's there. We can just grab that out, develop it, make sure that it gets us into the playoffs and we're not in the play-in, and then boom, where do the Warriors shine? Obviously in the playoffs. So I feel good. If Dante's panic meter was out, I would not be on the everyone panic yet. Nope. I feel good, especially after seeing the way that the Warriors were moving today offensively. I'm excited. The only thing is they got to start out strong on the road. And that
I was literally just going to say that's the biggest thing for me is that you just can't keep doing this. The fact that this was the 9th straight game where the Warriors did not have a lead after the first quarter.
Yeah.
We know that they can get away with it at home.
Yeah.
This is the road. It's literally like a completely different planet for them this season. Yeah. So you can't keep digging these kind of holes and also being a 14, 15 point disadvantage like they were tonight. That's what really has to be improved on the road. That's what I'm going to be looking for most in Oklahoma City, is them actually getting into a strong start and building off of that instead of having to go, okay, now we're starting to get it.
Yeah.
Get a strong start and build off of that.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens. I am just. Oh, I'm so sorry. Keep going. I cut you off. I didn't hear you.
Oh, no, that was it. It's just the fact that, again, I'm looking for a strong start because the third quarter Warriors, they weren't back tonight. But again,
I thought they were coming back. I thought vintage third quarter
right?
were back.
Right. You just can't expect that every single night. But, you know, and for them to have these comebacks and to have these kind of second quarters like they had again tonight, that's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, a better start because that is more sustainable, especially on the road.
Right. Well, the Warriors are back at it again. They're on the road. Any predictions for next game?
You know, not really. It's just, again, I'm looking to see kind of how guys like Steph and Andre kind of recover after having this one day off.
For sure.
That's what's key right now is seeing how their body reacts after a game like this. But these next two games are going to be big. You cannot look ahead to the Memphis game. Have to take care of business first in OKC, and then you got your big battle against the Memphis Grizzlies.
That's going to be quite the matchup, especially with all the buzz going out in the world about their next opponent. All right, well, friends on YouTube, we appreciate you joining us on Dubs Talk Live and chatting amongst yourselves, chatting with us. We are always grateful for your opinions and your support. So thank you. Have a great rest of your weekend. And Warriors will be back March 7th. Dubs Talk Live. Thank you.